Well, hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Project Joyful podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Tutty, your medical herbalist and high performance coach. So, hey, Project Joyful isn't just about being happy. It's about consciously creating a life you love. It's about remembering how to reconnect with your soul-centered joy. You know, that joy that comes from doing what you love, from living on purpose, and from being in a life that allows you to experience deep joy moment by moment. So hey, let's get started, shall we? So one of the ways we experience joy and fulfillment in our work is when our job aligns with our values. So how do you get to experience your values in your workplace? Now here's a hint. It's not about getting something from your employer. It's about making a subtle shift deep inside you. And I'll get into that a little bit later in this episode. So we know there are things in our life, principles if you will, which matter most to us. And these are things we hold dear to our hearts. In personal development land, they're often referred to as values. Now, our values can change over time, and they're often influenced by the circumstances in our life. Or you can choose to make a way of being more important to you than other ways of being. And in doing that, that's when your values can change. So if you're not sure of your top 10 values, or you think they may have changed, check out my free training. I include it in 2 of my free trainings, How to Fall in Love with Your Work and How to Attract a Job You Can Fall in Love With. And there's a link to my projectjoyful.com website in the show notes. So if you don't know what matters most to you, you're going to find it difficult to love what you do unless you happen across a job that matches your values by accident. Okay, so think about your top value. I have a question for you. Who are you being when you are living from that value? Let me give you an example. If my top value is love, what things am I saying to myself? You see, self-love is just as important as loving everybody else, right? And when I'm coming from that place of love, how am I looking after myself? What foods am I using to fuel my body, my mind, and my soul? How do I move my body? What are my self-care rituals? And what do I say to myself? Those things that I say to myself that other people can't hear. If love is your top value, start with self-love. Because how you treat and care for yourself and the quality of your self-talk is picked up and magnified back to you through your external experiences and interactions. Okay, so let's broaden out this inquiry. So, if love is my top value, how am I being at work? How am I talking with my colleagues, with my team? How am I interacting at the board table if I know everything happens for me rather than to me? If love is my top value, how am I being when I get home from work? Am I present? Have I decided how I will be or the energy I'll bring as soon as I walk through that door? Decide before you walk through the door so that you can be the energetic influencer of your space. Respond rather than reacting to what greets you at home. So let's look specifically at your work. How do you need to be at work in order to experience your top 3 values? What circumstances could you set up to allow yourself to live your values? What values does your employer have? And I mean the ones that they really have rather than the ones that are written on the statement. Now don't worry, if your values don't align with your employer, it doesn't mean you need to find a new job right now. But if they do automatically align with your employer, with your organization, with that workplace, you've hit the jackpot. So if your values don't align with your organization's values, your employer's values, you just need to find ways to express your values in that workplace. So let me give you an example. If you value learning, use your personal development plan to build skills that will benefit you inside and outside the workplace. Focus on building softer skills, those being skills, rather than just the doing skills. Or if giving back or serving is something that matters most to you, organise a team building day where your team can do some volunteer work like planting some trees. Find ways to architect your work so that you deliver value in a way that resonates with who you are and what matters most to you. Now, there's a Chinese proverb which says, we come into this world with a finite number of breaths. Now, we spend a lot of those breaths at work. Don't you think it's better to expend those breaths with joy in your soul rather than slogging away, counting down to the week can really begin to have a life? Have your life now. Sending you lots of love. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for listening to today's podcast. Can I ask you a favour? If our conversation spoke to you today, could you please take a moment to leave a 5-star review? Your review will help people discover this podcast, and together we can create a world where there's even more love and more laughter. And if you want to hear more from the Project Joyful podcast, just click the subscribe button. Bye for now.